Our responsibility as senators is to make sure that an FCC nominee not only has the expertise to be an independent regulator, but also possesses good judgment and temperament. The nominee must be fair, ethical, and perhaps most importantly, honest. On all of these fronts, this nominee has failed to meet the standard. There is a reason why we are on our third nomination hearing for Ms. Sohn. Both during this process and in her previous positions, she has shown herself to be a partisan who lacks the impartiality and candor necessary to serve in a leadership position at a powerful independent regulatory agency.
We live in a country that's very diverse. People come from very different backgrounds. And one of the things that preserves what little racial comedy and harmony we have in this country is that our leaders don't use that racial comedy and harmony like a toddler who discovered their daddy's gun. You talk about racial issues in a way that will inflame the very worst things in our country. And I fear that if you're given this position of authority, you will use that authority to continue to inflame and to continue potentially even to censor based on some of these ideas.
What deeply concerns me is that you've spent the last 2 decades of your life pushing an agenda on behalf of these same big tech companies. The ties between you and these big tech companies are clear, numerous, and quite frankly, disturbing. Public Knowledge, the nonprofit that you founded in 2001 and served as its president, received $100,000 from Google, over $50,000 from Amazon, over $50,000 from Facebook, as well as hundreds of thousands of dollars from third-party groups connected to these big tech companies. First question simply is, do you honestly expect the members of this committee or the American public to believe that you can be neutral with this long history and conflict of interest?
Do you still believe Fox News is state-sponsored propaganda? And if they came before you as a commissioner, you certainly would recuse yourself, wouldn't you? I think when you call an entity having one of the most negative impacts on our democracy and state-sponsored propaganda, and you have control over speech, that's a giant problem. And it certainly shows a lack of judgment and a bias. So
it's become clear that the American people can't necessarily trust that you'll make objective decisions in furtherance of the public interests. A former Democratic colleague of ours has called for a new nominee due to your, quote, extremist tactics, unquote. The Progressive Policy Institute opposes your nomination. This is not a GOP or a conservative front. They've cited your, quote, pattern of illiberal intolerance for voices on the left who dissent from your hard left orthodoxies, unquote.
Also of concern to law enforcement are allegations that the nominee has expressed support for movements aligned with defunding the police, or at the very least, defunding police surveillance tools, again, needed to keep our community safe. These are questions that have already been raised by other members of the committee today, so I'm not going to elaborate further, but I will note that such concerns by law enforcement do give me pause.
Friends, Biden's FCC nominee is attacking AAF again.
My industry opponents have hidden behind dark money groups and surrogates.
And it's for one simple reason, because we're leading the fight to expose her radical agenda and her unethical dealings on Capitol Hill. Message to Gigi Sohn is simple. We're never going to stop exposing her, no matter what kind of smear she levels against our organization. And I'll tell you why. Because she's created this situation where she gave money to congressional Democrats while she was a nominee, and now they're the people that are interviewing her for a job. Washington, D.C. is the only place where you have this swampy culture of pay to play, where someone who's donated to your campaign can come and ask you for a job on one of the highest federal bureaucracies in the country. It's just unacceptable, and it needs to stop. So Gigi Sohn, she shouldn't be anywhere near the federal government. She's attacked police officers and called on defunding the police. She's called for censorship on conservatives like Fox News, which is especially concerning for someone who wants to lead the Federal Communications Commission, the entity that regulates broadcasters in America. So we're never going to back down. The stakes are too high here. Gigi Sohn must withdraw. The 4 Democrat senators who took her money during her nomination fight, they need to recuse and show the American people that their votes aren't for sale. So AAF is going to keep exposing her, keep educating the American people, and continue this fight.